Woolley knocks it away, but Ithaca looks like they are going to hold on to possession. And could that be a corner for Ithaca? Juliana Valley had it last.
It looks like it will. So Ithaca, now with 1:45 on the clock, get their chance at a corner.
Yes, this will be their time to capitalize. They have been unable to convert on a corner the entire game. It'll be interesting to see who they pass to first in an attempt to create a shot here.
It looks like, is that Mira Burry on the
Believe it is Burry.
corner inbound? She'll step deep.
This is once again a 4-on-4. And Garver has it. The shot gets in. Ithaca wins 2-1 in overtime for the second straight game against New Paltz. It is a 2-1 overtime win. 2 years in a row now they have taken down SUNY New Paltz. Third overtime win of the season and 7th in a row.
And great execution on the corner. You couldn't ask for much more when everything is said and done. And what a prediction pregame by Andrew. That 2-1 score is exactly right. The Bombers improve.
For the second year in a row.
The Bombers improve to 10-3 on the season and increase their win streak to 7. While it's New Paltz who downgrade 8-4 now. And that loss streak is now at 2.
Yeah, what a game, and what an overtime possession right now. Continued back and forth. That is going to do it for the broadcast here today, but we will still have a post-game show. I'll be on with Morgan Spriggs in a few. For Devon Jarvis, I'm Andrew Roberts.
We are back post-game of this Ithaca Bomber win over New Paltz. Morgan Spriggs along with Andrew Roberts, and what a win in overtime for the Ithaca College Bombers over the New Paltz Hawks. And Andrew, of course, it's Natalie Descalso, the star.
Who else would it be?
The biggest, most important player on this team, offensively, defensively, with her leadership. She scores the goal a little past halfway to go in overtime. And Andrew, what a finish.
Yeah, absolutely. Descalso was really creating shots the entire game, and then finally in overtime she's able to score one of her own. That's her 5th goal of the season, but she's also had 10 assists. Just been a true leader for this offense, up to 20 points on the season. Mira Burry also with the assist. She had some shots set up from Descalso earlier in the game, and Burry returns the favor right there to end it for Ithaca.
So Ithaca right now has won 7 straight games, and 5 straight games have been one-score affairs. They know how to win, and they know how to make the plays when it matters most. And after not converting any of those corner kicks all game long, in overtime, when it mattered, your biggest player, Natalie Descalso, making the play on the assist from her teammate.
From Burry.
Yeah, from Burry.
Yeah, I'd argue that they not only know how to win, they know how to win close. This is 4 consecutive games of one score, and so many of the, 5 consecutive games of one score, and 3 of those have gone to overtime. One even went to a shootout. This is an Ithaca team that continues to win in close situations. And what I do wonder here is if a win over a team like New Paltz, who's had a pretty strong season put together, could that put them at least in the consideration for the top 25 next week?
I think that's very much in consideration, Andrew. So Ithaca improves to 10-3 on the year. This is a non-conference win, and SUNY New Paltz falls to 8-4 on the season. So let's start with the third quarter. After halftime, after both teams scored goals in the second period, Andrew, what did you see in the third quarter from these two teams?
Honestly, I feel like New Paltz was honestly starting to pick up the momentum in the third quarter, and they had so many opportunities to score, and Ithaca's defense stayed strong, just broke them up. And I think as you transitioned to the fourth quarter, it kind of went back to how this game started. Lots of back and forth, and then some big plays from the goalies, Alex Clough and Gail Comiskey.
Yeah, Alex Clough finishes the game with 7 saves on 14 shots faced, and she was a really big factor, especially with those corner kicks in overtime where it looked perilous for Ithaca against New Paltz in overtime.
Yes. The corners were a big factor for both of the teams in this game. I think New Paltz had the advantage both offensively and defensively on corners for majority of the game. New Paltz just continuing to set up good shot opportunities on those. Did score their only goal on a corner as Rachel Tama. But then in overtime, Ithaca made some adjustments on their offensive corner attempts and were able to finish the job. It was Descalso from Bury in overtime to win the game. Looking at some quick numbers here, each of these teams had 14 shots. They were dead even there. But when you look at it, New Paltz, 8 shots on goal compared to Ithaca's 4. So New Paltz was getting it towards the goal a lot more frequently. So I think you got to give some credit to Alex Clough here for making the saves when she needed to.
Oh, definitely. She is one of the biggest keys to this game and this victory for IC. And you look at the shots specifically, breaking them down quarter by quarter. Ithaca had none in the third quarter. New Paltz had 2 shots in the third. They had one of them was a corner, and it was really down to this defense for New Paltz to make the plays, and they did so all the third quarter. But then going to the fourth quarter, it was Ithaca outshooting New Paltz 5-2 and really putting the pressure on, but they just couldn't finish. There were some missed opportunities on breaks, and then in overtime, it was New Paltz actually having a lot of the momentum. They had 4 shots compared to Ithaca's 1, but that one shot, that was the game-winning shot by Descasco, and that's all that matters going in the net. Just a really, really clutch win for Ithaca.
Got to give some credit to New Paltz's coaching. They've coached up some of these young players to really stand out on this team, and the adjustments made headed into the second quarter and out of halftime were huge for New Paltz keeping this close. Unfortunately, didn't end up working in the end, as Ithaca is one of the most clutch teams at the end of games, and that really showed in this one.
Exactly, Andrew. And we've talked about Natalie Descalso, we've talked about Juliana Valley, we've talked about Alex Clough, but who was one of the most underrated players performing in the second half that you think really stood out for Ithaca?
I'm actually going to name a few here. I'm looking at Mira Bury, because she early in the game was getting some shots from Natalie Descalso, but unable to capitalize on those. But then creating the shot herself in overtime, I think that was big. Eliza Bellaro making a big impact as a defensive midfielder. In addition to Catherine Papa getting pretty physical as a midfielder as well. And then I also liked what I saw off the bench, even though she did have that penalty from Audrey McMahon, starting to go one-on-one against Hannah Ackerman, who was really the midfield general, as we've talked about throughout this game for New Paltz.
Right, exactly. And who do you think is the MVP of this game, Andrew?
I've got to give it to Jess Calso. I think that's a pretty easy call here, because not only does she set up the majority of Ithaca's shots early in the game and then finishing one herself at the end. It was what I was talking about earlier in the game was Descalso being unable to find the right shooter to finish the job, but then finishing it herself at the end was huge for Ithaca.
All right, well, taking a look at the upcoming schedules for these teams. For New Paltz, they will go back to conference action on Saturday at 1 p.m. They will travel to Morrisville, New York to take on Morrisville State College. And for Ithaca, they will take their 7-game winning streak, their 5-game one-score streak. These cardiac bombers, these scrappy bombers, they will go on the road to Geneva, New York to take on William Smith College as they resume Liberty League action and hope to improve their record to 11-3.
Yeah, absolutely. Ithaca is undefeated so far in Liberty League play, and they enter a very Liberty League heavy stretch over the next few games. They travel to William Smith before hosting Rochester for Senior Day, hosting RPI, and traveling to Vassar. These next 4 games are all Liberty League matchups. Morgan, do you think they can finish the Liberty League regular season undefeated?
You know what? With the way that Ithaca is playing in these one-score games and really making the plays that they needed to, I don't see why not. I say yes. All right, well, that is going to do it for this broadcast.